The alarm bells rang across the massive space station floating near the red planet Morvain. It was not a drill this time. After 100 years of training, the Kethvar army was finally ready to attack Earth. Millions of alien soldiers had spent their entire lives preparing for this single moment. General Veltar walked through the training halls one last time. His forearms moved in perfect rhythm as he inspected the troops. Each soldier stood exactly 2 meters apart. Their weapons gleamed under the bright lights. Everything was perfect, just like it had been every day for the past century. The Kethvar had discovered Earth by accident when one of their scout ships got lost. What they found there scared them deeply. Humans were different from every other species in the galaxy. They did not follow rules. They did not think logically. They fought in ways that made no sense to anyone else. But the Kethvar were smart. Instead of attacking right away, they decided to study humans first. They watched every human war movie. They read every military book ever written. They analyzed thousands of battles throughout human history. They learned about every weapon humans had ever used. The alien scientists built perfect copies of human weapons. They studied how humans moved in battle. They learned human languages so well that they could speak without any accent. They even learned about human emotions and how feelings affected fighting. In the training centers, millions of Kethvar soldiers practiced fighting like humans. They learned how to use rifles, tanks, and fighter jets. They studied human battle formations and practiced them until they could do them perfectly. Every possible human attack was planned for and countered. The war computers held information about every human military leader who had ever lived. They knew about ancient warriors and modern generals. They understood human tactics better than most humans did. The computers could predict what humans would do in any battle situation. Sub-Commander Nixal had spent 30 years just studying human psychology. He knew that humans often made decisions based on emotions instead of logic. This weakness would be easy to exploit. Humans got angry, scared, and confused in battle. The Kethvar would stay calm and organized. The alien fleet was magnificent. 12,000 ships of different sizes filled the space around Morvain. Each ship had been built using the best technology the Kethvar possessed. They had shields that could stop any human weapon. Their own weapons were more powerful than anything humans had ever seen. The soldiers were perfect too. Each one had trained for decades. They knew exactly what to do in every situation. They followed orders without question. They worked together like parts of a giant machine. There was no panic, no fear, no confusion among them. General Veltar called his top officers together for the final briefing. The meeting room was filled with maps, charts, and computer displays showing Earth. Every detail about the human planet had been studied and memorized. The plan was simple and efficient. The fleet would arrive at Earth and demand surrender. When humans refused, the Kethvar would attack in 3 waves. The first wave would destroy human space defenses. The second wave would attack military bases on Earth. The third wave would occupy major cities and force complete surrender. The whole operation was expected to take less than 1 day. The computers had run millions of simulations. Every simulation showed the same result. Humans would be defeated quickly and completely. Their chaotic fighting style would crumble against superior Kethvar organization and planning. Officer Zenth asked about human unpredictability. This had been discussed many times before. Yes, humans were unpredictable, but the Kethvar had prepared for this. They had backup plans for their backup plans. No matter what surprising thing humans did, there would be a counter-strategy ready. The alien soldiers loaded into their ships with quiet confidence. Each one knew their exact role in the coming battle. They had practiced these movements thousands of times. Loading was completed in exactly 1 hour and 15 minutes, just as planned. The ship captains received their final orders. They would fly in perfect formation to Earth. No ship would break formation without direct orders. No captain would act independently. Everything would happen according to the plan that had been perfected over decades. The Kethvar had also studied human weaknesses carefully. Humans fought best when defending their homes, but they got confused when attacked in unexpected ways. They relied too much on individual heroes instead of working as a team. They made emotional decisions that led to tactical mistakes. Most importantly, humans had never fought an enemy that understood them so completely. Every other species that had met humans was surprised by their strange behavior. But the Kethvar knew exactly what to expect. There would be no surprises this time. The final preparations were completed. Weapons were charged and ready. Navigation. Computers were programmed with the route to Earth. Communication systems were tuned to human frequencies so they could demand surrender in perfect English. Medical bays were prepared to treat wounded soldiers, though few casualties were expected. General, Feltar gave the order to depart. The massive fleet moved away from Morvain in perfect synchronization. 12,000 ships arranged themselves in the attack formation that had been practiced countless times. They looked like a moving constellation of death and conquest as the fleet entered hyperspace. Feltar felt proud of what his people had accomplished. They had turned preparation into an art form. No army in galactic history had ever been more ready for battle. The humans would face an enemy that knew them better than they knew themselves. The journey to Earth would take 6 hours. During that time, the soldiers would review their assignments one final time. The ship crews would check every system twice. The officers would study the latest intelligence reports about human military positions. Everything was perfect. Everything was planned. Everything was ready. After 100 years of preparation, the Kethvar were finally going to show the galaxy how to properly defeat the chaotic humans. Victory was certain. The long wait was almost over. The coffee in Admiral Davis's mug was still hot when the alarm started screaming throughout Earth Defense Station Alpha. He had been reading morning reports about supply shortages and training schedules, the usual boring paperwork that filled his days. Now everything changed in an instant. Lieutenant Torres burst into the command center without knocking. Her face was pale and her hands shook slightly as she handed Davis a datapad. The numbers on the screen made his stomach drop. 12,000 alien ships had just appeared at the edge of the solar system. They were arranged in perfect military formations that stretched across space like a deadly geometric puzzle. Davis set down his coffee and walked to the main viewing screen. The sight was both beautiful and terrifying. Each alien ship looked like it was made of crystal and metal. They reflected the light of the sun in patterns that hurt to look at directly. The formations were so precise they looked like computer graphics instead of real spacecraft. The communication systems came alive with chatter from all over Earth. Military bases, space stations, and civilian observatories all reported the same thing. The aliens had arrived without any warning. One moment space was empty, the next moment it was filled with an invasion fleet. Commander Brooks rushed over from the tactical station. His voice was steady, but Davis could hear the worry underneath. The alien fleet was using formation patterns that human military computers recognized. These were not random arrangements. This was a professional invasion force that knew exactly what it was doing. The aliens began broadcasting on every frequency humans used. The message came in dozens of languages, including perfect English with no accent at all. The voice was cold and mechanical, like a computer trying to sound important. It demanded immediate surrender from all humans everywhere. Davis listened to the message 3 times. The aliens called themselves the Kethvar Collective. They claimed humans were dangerous to galactic peace. Earth had 10 minutes to surrender completely or face total destruction. There would be no negotiation and no second chances. The Admiral called an emergency meeting with his senior staff. Within minutes, the command center filled with officers who had been pulled away from breakfast, sleep, and family time. Everyone looked worried but ready to fight. This was what they had trained for their whole careers. Major Williams brought up the defense grid status on the main screen. Earth had been preparing for alien contact for decades, ever since the first radio. Telescopes detected strange signals from deep space. The planet was protected by hundreds of armed space stations, thousands of fighter craft and orbital weapons platforms that could destroy small moons. But the alien fleet was huge. Even if every human weapon worked perfectly, the battle would be difficult. The enemy ships were using technology that seemed more advanced than anything humans had built. Their formation suggested they knew about human defensive capabilities and had planned accordingly. Davis asked about response time for human fleets. Ships were launching from bases on Mars, the Moon, and asteroid mining stations throughout the HFY solar system. But it would take time for everyone to get into position. The aliens had chosen their timing well, arriving when human forces were spread out across the solar system. The alien broadcast continued repeating its demands. Davis noticed something interesting about the message. It was too perfect. The grammar was flawless, the pronunciation was exact, and the tone never changed. It sounded like someone reading from a script they had memorized very carefully. Lieutenant Kim reported that human intelligence satellites were analyzing the alien ships. The designs were unlike anything in the human database, but they showed clear signs of military purpose. Weapons, shields, and armor were arranged in ways that suggested the aliens had studied human ship designs and built counters for them. Davis made his decision. He ordered all human forces to scramble and prepare for battle. But he also did something the aliens probably did not expect. Instead of following standard defensive formations, he told each ship captain to use their own judgment about positioning and tactics. The human response confused the alien computers. Instead of moving into predictable defensive positions around Earth, human ships scattered in all directions. Some headed toward the alien fleet while others seemed to run away. A few groups of human ships appeared to be fighting each other instead of preparing to fight the aliens. From the alien perspective, the human response looked like chaos and panic. Ships moved without coordination. Captains ignored orders from their superiors. Military formations broke apart as individual ships went their own directions. It looked like human command and control had collapsed before the battle even started. But Davis knew better. He had served with these people for years. They were not panicking or running away. They were doing what humans did best, adapting to unexpected situations by throwing away the rulebook and making things up as they went along. The 10-minute deadline was almost up. Davis opened communication channels to every human ship in the solar system. His message was simple and direct. Show these visitors why Earth was still independent after all these years. Remind them that humans had survived ice ages, world wars, and asteroid impacts by being too stubborn to give up. As human ships moved into their chaotic positions, Davis smiled for the first time since the alarm started. The aliens had made one critical mistake in all their planning. They had assumed that humans would fight like everyone else in the galaxy. They were about to learn that assumption was completely wrong. The battle began exactly as General Veltar had planned. His fleet moved forward in perfect formation, while human ships scattered like frightened animals. The HFY computers calculated firing solutions and predicted human movement patterns. Everything was proceeding according to the simulations they had run thousands of times. Then the humans did something that broke every rule of space warfare. Instead of trying to fight from a distance, groups of human ships accelerated directly toward the alien fleet at maximum speed. The HFY weapon systems locked onto these approaching targets, expecting them to turn away or fire their weapons. Humans did neither. They kept coming straight at the alien ships without firing a single shot. Veltar watched in confusion as the first wave of human vessels slammed directly into his formation. The ships exploded on impact, taking several HFY vessels with them in massive fireballs that lit up space like tiny suns. Sub-Commander Nixall stared at his instruments in shock. The humans had just sacrificed dozens of their own ships in suicide attacks. No military computer in the HFY database had ever predicted this tactic. Rational species did not throw away expensive warships and trained crews in the opening moments of battle. But the explosions had torn huge gaps in the alien formation. Through these gaps came more human ships, but these were not flying in any recognizable attack pattern. Some ships flew upside down while firing in random directions. Others spun like tops while somehow still hitting their targets accurately. A few human vessels appeared to be playing some kind of game with each other while simultaneously attacking alien ships. The HFY battle computers started making strange noises as they tried to process what they were seeing. The machines had been programmed with every known military tactic in galactic history. They could counter any logical strategy within seconds. But there was nothing logical about what the humans were doing. A human fighter pilot was flying his ship backwards while shooting over his shoulder at alien vessels. Another pilot had somehow turned her fighter into a spinning drill that was boring holes through enemy hulls. A group of human bombers was dropping their explosives randomly, creating a field of floating mines that made organized movement impossible for the aliens. Then the humans started talking to their enemies during the battle. Radio transmissions filled with insults, jokes, and casual conversation flooded the communication channels. One human pilot was giving detailed descriptions of what he was going to do to alien ships while he was doing it. Another was asking for recipe suggestions while using his ship as a battering ram. Captain Thompson was flying a cargo hauler that had been converted into a weapons platform. He was broadcasting cooking tips to other human ships while using industrial mining lasers to cut alien vessels in half. His casual tone made it sound like he was discussing weekend plans instead of fighting for the survival of his species. Meanwhile, Commander Barnes had ejected from her damaged fighter and somehow managed to steal an alien shuttle from inside an enemy hangar bay. She was now flying the stolen craft back toward human lines while providing detailed intelligence about alien ship layouts. She accomplished this impossible feat while maintaining a running commentary about the poor design choices in alien spacecraft. The Kethvar formation completely collapsed as individual alien ships tried to respond to threats that changed faster than their computers could track. Some aliens began firing on their own vessels, confused by human ships that had somehow acquired Kethvar identification codes and were flying in the middle of alien formations. General Veltar tried desperately to regain control of the battle. He ordered his ships to fall back and regroup, but the humans had anticipated this move. As the aliens tried to withdraw, human vessels appeared from unexpected directions, cutting off escape routes and forcing individual alien ships into chaotic dogfights. The human tactics made no sense from a military perspective, but they were devastatingly effective. Alien ships designed to fight in coordinated formations found themselves isolated and surrounded by enemies who seemed to be making up their strategies on the spot. Every time the Kethvar computers calculated a response, the humans changed what they were doing. Pilot Rodriguez was using her destroyer as a giant baseball bat, literally swatting smaller alien fighters into each other. The tactic was completely insane from an engineering standpoint, but it was working. Alien pilots who had trained for decades to fight logical enemies could not cope with being attacked by a starship wielding itself as a melee weapon. The situation became even more surreal. When human ships started coordinating their chaos, captains would call out targets to each other while performing impossible maneuvers. They shared tactical information in casual conversation mixed with jokes, insults, and comments about the weather back on Earth. Foster was leading a squadron of modified civilian spacecraft against a group of alien battleships. Her ships were not designed for combat, but the humans had somehow turned garbage haulers and passenger transports into effective weapons platforms. They were using everything from industrial equipment to entertainment systems as improvised weapons. The final blow came when a human vessel that appeared to be a converted shopping mall somehow managed to disable the Kethvar command ship. The humans had weaponized a civilian space station by turning its food court into a missile launcher and its shopping areas into fighter bays. The absurdity of being defeated by a flying mall was too much for the alien command structure to handle. Within 6 minutes of the first shot being fired, the Kethvar fleet was broadcasting surrender signals on all frequencies. General Veltar sat in his powerless command center, surrounded by the wreckage of his perfect plan, trying to understand how a century of preparation had been defeated by 6 minutes of pure human insanity. The battle had become something that military historians would spend decades trying to understand. What started as a conventional space engagement had turned into something that resembled a cosmic demolition derby mixed with a three-dimensional chess game played by people who had never learned the rules. Lieutenant Barnes was now flying her stolen alien shuttle directly into enemy formations while broadcasting detailed technical reviews of Kethvar spacecraft design. She critiqued their engine efficiency, complained about their uncomfortable seating, and suggested improvements to their life support systems. all while using the shuttle's own weapons to attack other alien ships. Her casual commentary confused the Kethvar even more than her impossible piloting skills. How could someone steal their technology, master it instantly, and then offer design criticism while using it against them? The alien engineers who had spent years perfecting those ships listened in bewilderment as a human pilot casually dismantled their life's work. Captain Foster had discovered that her destroyer could be used as more than just a baseball bat. She was now playing a game she called space hockey, using smaller alien fighters as pucks and trying to score goals by hitting them into the engines of larger enemy vessels. The fact that this ridiculous tactic was actually working made it even more demoralizing for the aliens. The Kethvar fleet's coordination completely broke down as individual ship captains tried to respond to threats that seemed to follow no logical pattern. Their battle computers, programmed with every known military strategy, began overheating as they attempted to process tactical situations that had never existed before in galactic history. Commander Thompson had turned his converted cargo hauler into a mobile weapon shop. He was manufacturing improvised missiles from spare parts and launching them, while simultaneously conducting what appeared to be a cooking show for other human pilots. His instructions for both explosive devices and pasta sauce were equally detailed and equally effective. The aliens watched in horror as Thompson's ship produced an endless stream of creative weapons from its cargo bays. Kitchen appliances became guidance systems. Sporting goods turned into armor plating. Children's toys were somehow converted into sophisticated electronic warfare devices that jammed Kethvar communications. Sub-Commander Nixall reported that human ships were now using mining lasers, construction equipment, and industrial robots as weapons. One human vessel appeared to be attacking with what the computer identified as modified farming equipment. Another was firing projectiles that seemed to be pieces of furniture and household appliances. The situation became even more surreal when human pilots started coordinating their chaos through what sounded like casual conversation. Captain Davis called out target suggestions while apparently eating lunch. Lieutenant Rodriguez provided tactical updates while discussing her weekend plans. Commander Wilson gave strategic advice while reviewing a movie he had watched the night before. This casual communication style completely baffled the Kethvar, who had been trained to use precise military terminology and formal command structures. How could an army function when its soldiers talked to each other like they were having dinner together? Yet somehow, this relaxed communication was more effective than the aliens' rigid protocols. The human fleet's apparent lack of organization was actually a sophisticated form of coordination that the Kethvar could not understand. Each human captain was making independent decisions based on the changing battle situation, but they were all working toward the same goal. Their chaos had purpose, even if that purpose was invisible to outside observers. Pilot Martinez had figured out how to hack into Kethvar communication systems and was now giving fake orders to enemy ships. She sent conflicting commands that caused alien vessels to fly into each other, while maintaining a cheerful tone that made her sound like a helpful customer service representative. The psychological effect of this tactic was devastating. Kethvar captains began questioning every order they received. Was it from their own command structure or from the humans? The uncertainty paralyzed their decision-making process and made coordinated action impossible. Meanwhile, Commander Brooks had discovered that alien shields were vulnerable to a specific frequency of radio waves. He was broadcasting Earth music at maximum volume, using everything from classical symphonies to heavy metal rock as weapons. The Kethvar shields collapsed under the assault of human culture, leaving their ships defenseless against conventional attacks. The aliens had prepared for human weapons, human tactics, and human psychology. They had not prepared for human creativity, human humor, or human music being used as instruments of war. Their century of planning had not included contingencies for being defeated by a species that could turn anything into a weapon. General Veltar watched his perfect fleet fall apart as human ships continued their impossible maneuvers. A converted passenger liner was now towing a string of disabled alien fighters behind it like a parade float. A mining vessel was using its ore processing equipment to literally chew through enemy hulls. A research ship was conducting live experiments on captured alien technology while using the results to build better weapons. The final insult came when a human garbage collection ship began cleaning up the battle debris while the fight was still going on. The crew was sorting through the wreckage, recycling useful materials, and apparently grading the battle performance of both sides. They offered helpful suggestions for improvement while disposing of destroyed spacecraft with cheerful efficiency. Within minutes, the proud Kethvar invasion fleet had been reduced to a collection of confused, damaged, and demoralized ships. Their perfect formations were broken, their coordination was destroyed, and their confidence was completely shattered. They had been defeated not by superior firepower or better tactics, but by an enemy that refused to follow any rules at all. Admiral Davis checked his watch and shook his head in amazement. The entire battle had lasted exactly 6 minutes and 37 seconds from first shot to final surrender. Around him, the command center staff was staring at their instruments, in disbelief. Victory reports were coming in from all across the solar system, but nobody seemed quite ready to believe what had just happened. The aftermath was unlike anything in military history. Human ships drifted peacefully through fields of disabled alien vessels while their crews chatted with each other about the most creative tactics they had used. Several pilots were already trading alien artifacts they had somehow acquired during the brief engagement. Lieutenant Torres reported that Captain Thompson was conducting guided tours of captured alien ships for other human crews. He had somehow become an expert on Kethvar technology in the 6 minutes since the battle started, and was now explaining alien engineering principles while serving snacks to visitors. Meanwhile, Commander Brooks was organizing what appeared to be an impromptu, cultural exchange program. Human and alien crews were sharing food, music, and stories while repair teams worked on damaged ships from both sides. The transition from deadly combat to friendly cooperation had happened so quickly that many participants were still trying to process it. General Veltar requested a direct communication link with Admiral Davis. When the alien commander appeared on the main screen, his expression showed complete confusion mixed with grudging respect. His forearms moved in gestures that the human translation computers identified as signs of bewilderment and surrender. Davis looked at the alien general with genuine curiosity. After decades of military service, he had learned to respect any enemy that could organize and equip such an impressive invasion fleet. The fact that they had been defeated so quickly did not diminish the skill and effort that had gone into their preparation. Veltar spoke first, his voice carrying the weight of a century of destroyed plans. He admitted that his people had studied humans for 100 years, learning everything they could about human warfare, psychology, and technology. They had prepared for every possible scenario and built counters for every known human tactic. Davis listened carefully to the alien's explanation. The Kethvar had done their homework thoroughly. They understood human military history better than most human generals. They had analyzed every major battle, studied every successful strategy, and prepared responses for every predictable human action. The alien general asked the question that was bothering him most. How had humans defeated such careful preparation so completely? His people had known about human weapons, human formations, and human tactical thinking. They had been ready for everything humans had ever done before. Davis leaned back in his chair and considered how to explain something that he was not entirely sure he understood himself. The truth was that most of the human tactics used in the battle had been improvised on the spot. There had been no grand strategy, no carefully planned coordination, no secret weapons that the aliens had missed. The Admiral tried to put it in terms the alien might understand. Humans did not really like following their own playbooks, he explained. Military manuals and tactical guidelines were useful for training, but in real combat, human commanders preferred to adapt to the actual situation rather than stick to predetermined plans. This concept seemed to cause Veltar physical pain. His species valued precision, planning, and predictable outcomes. The idea that an army could function effectively without following established procedures was completely alien to his way of thinking. How could millions of soldiers work together without detailed coordination? Davis smiled at the question. Humans did not coordinate in the way other species expected, he explained. Instead of following rigid command structures, human forces functioned more like a collection of independent problem solvers who happened to be working toward the same goal. Each ship captain had been free to interpret orders creatively and adapt tactics to local conditions. The alien general pressed for more details. How could such a system work without creating chaos and confusion? Davis admitted that it did create chaos and confusion, but that was actually an advantage against enemies who expected organized resistance. The Kethvar computers had been designed to counter logical strategies, not creative improvisation. Meanwhile, the rescue and recovery operations continued around them. Human medical teams were working alongside alien medics to treat wounded from both sides. The cooperation was so natural and immediate that many alien soldiers seemed more surprised by human helpfulness than they had been by human fighting skills. Captain Martinez reported that several alien ships were requesting permission to join human salvage operations. Kethvar engineers wanted to study human improvisational techniques, while human technicians were eager to examine alien technology. The war was already becoming a learning opportunity for both sides. Word of the engagement spread quickly throughout the galaxy. Other potential invaders who had been considering attacks on Earth quietly canceled their plans. The message was clear. Humans did not just win wars, they turned warfare itself into something unpredictable and dangerous for anyone who relied on conventional tactics. The Kethvar Collective eventually became one of humanity's closest allies. Their appreciation for careful planning complemented human creativity perfectly. Many alien soldiers who had participated in the invasion chose to stay and study human military methods, fascinated by the effectiveness of organized chaos. General Veltar retired from military service and became an ambassador to Earth. He often told the story of the 6-minute war to other alien species, usually ending with his favorite observation: humans turned a century of our preparation into 6 minutes of beautiful, terrifying madness. In the official records of the Galactic Council, Earth's diplomatic status was quietly changed. The planet was no longer classified as a potential threat or target for conquest. The new designation read simply, "Do not engage under any circumstances." Some things in the universe were too dangerous to fight, even if you spent 100 years getting ready.